My name is Joan Grimalt. I would like to express my huge thanks to the Catalan Society of Chemistry for this award on scientific excellence of 2022. Now I will share the screen to show you some of the work I have done within my scientific career. Well, the world is full of chemicals, and the point is that we have done last year an inventory of these chemicals, which was published in Science. Approximately, there are 300,000 compounds in current use, and there is a lack of knowledge of their properties and interactions in the environment and humans. There is a need for a human body to assess the problems generated by the use of these compounds and waste management. These were the main aspects of this paper, which received the support of 2,100 scientists from 90 countries worldwide. What makes a chemical toxic? Well, it depends on the specific properties of the dosage. Paracelsus told us this, and on the time of exposure. The time of exposure is not the same if the chemical is, if humans are exposed while they were in the formation of their metabolism and their organs. So to account for these differences, we have examined, we did in a paper, we examined what were the differences between the relative accumulation of organohalogen compounds in mothers and their newborns, considering that the two were one single organism. So we measured this in maternal blood and cord blood, and also in the placenta. One result of this is to show that in general, the concentrations are higher in the mothers, which is expected because the pollutants come from through their intake. And also it is found that the placenta is not a barrier, but allows the transmission of these pollutants from the mother to the fetus. However, in some cases, such as the concentrations of DDT, then what happens is that they are higher in the fetus. Why is that? Is because we showed that this is because the metabolism in the fetus is under formation, and they are unable to metabolize DDT, while in the mother there is some elimination. What are the effects of DDT exposure? Well, we examined this in a region, Chukotka, in the easternmost part of Russia. Over there were mothers. We measured this in mothers from this region, and we compared which were the characteristics of their newborns. What we found was that mothers with higher exposure to DDT had longer gestational age, and their kids, their newborns, were with higher birth weight and birth length. So we may imagine that these features are not very good if they are related to exposure to DDT. But other characteristics of the mothers are also influencing the accumulation of these compounds into the newborns. For instance, if the mothers have a maternal gestational weight gain which is lower than that recommended by the Institute of Medicine, we found that then what happens is that the newborns come to life with higher dosages of these pollutants than the mothers, which gain gestational weight as recommended or higher. The same is the case for the concentrations in colostrum. Again, the mothers who had lower gestational weight gain than recommended by the Institute of Medicine had higher concentrations of DDE, PCBs, hexachlorobenzene, hexachlorocyclohexane, then in the colostrum, then the mothers who had an increase of gestational weight gain normal, as recommended by the Institute of Medicine, or even higher. In general, what we have found is that in studies we have done in the context of the IMMA cohorts, environment and childhood, is that the worst period, or let's say the period involving higher deleterious effects later in life for humans is the period of in utero exposure. And this is documented in many papers in which we found many effects due to neurodevelopment, to thyroid hormones, and so forth. We also studied the effects in adults. And for instance, in one paper, we found that higher concentrations of organochlorine compounds in patients of exocrine pancreatic cancer involved mutation of the KRAS gene. This is an oncogene, one of the most common, while the patients with lower concentrations of these compounds did not have this KRAS gene mutated, either whether they were with exocrine pancreatic cancer or not. These effects have been also studied in one village, which is called Flish. This is Flish, which is located nearby a chloralkali plant. Over there, we found that people who was exposed to higher amounts of hexachlorobenzene had higher incidence of thyroid cancer, 6.7 times more in men compared to the general population. There was also correlation between concentrations of hexachlorobenzene in venous blood of the inhabitants of this village and unusual levels of thyroid hormones, which was also indicated that there is an effect of this compound, hexachlorobenzene, on the thyroid gland. Because of the high amount of residues dumped into the Ebro River because of the by this chloralkali plant, we proposed a method to eliminate these residues from the Ebro River, and this was done by a program which involved a cost of 200 million euro, 75% paid by the European Commission. And here we see that there was made a wall nearby the dumped residues to separate the flows of the Ebro, the water of the Ebro River from the water nearby the residues, to avoid that when digging them out, they would go downriver. This is the same image when these residues have been removed already. We studied these compounds also in overall Europe, particularly in high mountain lakes. And one discovery we found was that the compounds, the lakes which located at higher altitude, had higher concentrations of these compounds than the lakes at lower altitude. And this was due to the fact that those located at high altitude had lower temperature. Therefore, there was a condensation of the compounds in the lakes. We also studied polybromodiphenyl ethers, and one discovery was that the Lobnagar, the one which is marked here with the arrow, was the one with highest concentration in the whole Europe. This created a very high attention, a high interest in the United Kingdom, because this lake belongs to Balmoral Park, and this is a protected area where the royalties of the British Kingdom have spent their time in summer. Why was this pollution over there? We studied this measuring in some lakes, measuring the long-range transport and deposition of these compounds through the atmosphere with these instruments, sampling instruments you see here. And what we found is that when the wind is coming, studying long-range air mass transfer trajectories, what we found is that when the wind is coming from the North Atlantic, from the west, particularly from the US, there was higher deposition of these compounds than when the wind was coming from other sources. In order to sort out what has been the climate evolution of our planet, in order to have better knowledge about what will happen because of the CO2 increase, we have been studying natural products such as the C37D and triunsaturated alkenones, which tell us about the temperature of the sea in the past. We have found this, we have published this in several papers. Here there are some examples. And one of the results is the one we are showing here, that during the last 430,000 years, there has been major reorganizations of the currents in the North Atlantic, which involved strong changes in temperature, both in the interglacial periods and in the glacial periods. Well, all this work I have described here have led to the presentation of 52 PhD theses, 77 master and degree theses, as you see here. And I have to express my thanks to Esther, my partner, my kids, their families, my brother and sister, their families. And there are two, there is one news, which is one I have, is one grand nephew I have, and two more which are arriving. And these two grandson and daughter, and despite their low age, they have sent a message to us. Please leave us a world we can live in. I hope we'll be able to do it. Thanks for your attention.